so excited to bring to you our first Lunch and Learn series for 2021, and we are featuring EPS today. Valerie, do you have my slides ready? Before we get going with the introduction of our guest, who's David Ciroli, the owner and founder of EPS, I want to go through some slides that explain to you what we do at CVMSDC, because we always have some listeners who are new to the fold and are just not familiar with what we do. Next slide, Valerie. So we are a 44-year-old advocacy organization, and our mission is to expand business opportunities for minority business enterprises. We call them MBEs, and create mutually beneficial links between corporate partners and MBEs. The ultimate outcome is to add economic value to the supply chain while increasing economic opportunities in the business community. And we accomplish this with our network. It's a four-pronged approach. We're in the middle there, and we have 6 different rings for our members to join up with. They're regional industry need group rings. And I like to say those are the small working arms of our council. That's where all of the work occurs. And we have them geographically dispersed. We have 3 in North Carolina, 2 in South Carolina, and 1 in Virginia. You can visit our calendar to see when the meetings occur, and feel free to join one of those meetings. We have over 13,000 MBEs nationwide, over 1,500 corporate partners, and then we have community partners like chambers of commerces and other community organizations. And so this is the structure of the council. And the next slide, we accomplish our work by 4 pillars. The first pillar is certification. We are the largest certifying agency of minority-owned MBEs in the country, and we set the industry standard. Once you get certified, which is a very rigorous process, once you do get certified, we hang our hat on the developmental opportunities that we present. So much like a car needs a tune-up, we know that your businesses need tune-ups on a regular basis. And so we have development opportunities at University of Richmond, Tuck, Sunoco Leadership Program, and a few others that you can engage in. And we provide scholarships for our members to attend those programs. Next, connection. That's what we're all here for. And today we're going to learn how to connect with EPS and utilize their services to grow your business. But we provide connecting opportunities. That's bringing everybody together in the same room or the same virtual space so that you can connect and learn how to do business with those organizations. And then finally, based on the sheer size of our organization, we're able to advocate for our members on a national, regional, and local level. Next slide, please, Valerie. So that's what we do. You can hit return a couple of times. I want to make it known to everyone who's listening that we have MBEs that span the spectrum from under $1 million to in the billions. Some people say, well, I can't find an MBE to do that particular service or provide that particular product. But I want all of our listeners to understand that our MBEs span the spectrum across the country. So as an example, this is just purely an example, Fatima here, she provides all things fire solutions, and she's a $10 million plus company. If you have a need for fire extinguishers or anything fire related, they can help you. Glenn Gonzalez down at the bottom, he has a private jet company. So, you can go from sauce to fire solutions to jet companies, right? And he can fly you anywhere you want to go in the US privately. You can do a private share with him, or you can do a per hour opportunity with him to charter a flight. He just doubled his business in 2020 as a result of going into COVID. And because people weren't flying commercially, his business doubled. And now he flies into Canada. He just opened up a Canadian route. My favorite up top is Janice Bryan Howard. She's a South Carolina entrepreneur. She started in a small town in South Carolina and grew her company to be the first African-American woman to build and own $1 billion company. She has a staffing company. And so there you have it, from, again, sauce all the way up to billion-dollar companies. We have an MBE that can satisfy the needs of our corporate partners. Final slide, and this is my favorite slide. For every dollar that a corporation like an EPS or Boeing or BMW invests in an MBE in our supply chain, there's $1.72 that is returned back into the economy. And that occurs by what we call the trickle-down effect. There's jobs that are created, there are incomes, there's community development, there's goods and services and products as purchased, there's taxes. So every time we hire an MBE to fulfill a contract, there's a trickle-down impact, and it's a major economic change in our economy. As an example, we have an MBE who built a building in an economic opportunity zone. That place was barren before. built that building. Now he's hiring other MBEs, and he's able to provide jobs and incomes and community development where there was none before. So this is just an example of how the whole trickle-down effect works. So here today, we're going to hear from ePS. Next slide, you can go ahead and put up the, okay, we're going to hear from ePS. I have David Cirelli here with me today. David, you want to come on live?
Yes, thank you, Dominique. I appreciate the introduction.
Yeah, so David, let me go ahead and do the whole formal introduction for you, David. David has been an entrepreneur and a business leader in procurement, technology, e-commerce, and finance since 1989. David has successfully launched and grown 4 different startups in his career that range from outsourced procurement, supply chain management, e-procurement software, supplier, e-commerce enablement software, and financial process software. David has over 30 years of experience in every aspect of startup companies, including capital raises, mergers and acquisitions, and
I think we just lost Dominique on her feed. So I'm going to go ahead and start. And Julie, can you hear me?
David, you can go ahead with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, again, I appreciate the introduction from Dominique, and for Dominique and Gregory and team for setting this up today. I appreciate for everybody joining today. What we're going to talk about, and Dominique brought it up, is ePS is a corporate member with NMSDC, and our diversity inclusion program is called NDVSB. So that's the National Diversity Veteran Small Business Marketplace. And this is specifically, we're going to talk about what we're doing with NMSDC, but I'll bring up some other areas. So when we're talking about, next screen, please. When we're talking about this, if there's one big takeaway, it's when we're talking about ePS and what we provide to our small business partners, is it's a one-to-many solution. And we've been in the business for over 15 years. So you may not have heard of us, but we've been working with small businesses, veteran-owned and MBEs and diversity-owned small businesses for over 15 years. We started with what we call the bigs. So as you know, like the Office Depots and the Grangers of the world, they have diversity inclusion programs. Their biggest goal and one of the biggest hurdles 15 years ago was being able to bring MBEs into their program as resellers and then align them with enterprise accounts, so Fortune 100 or Fortune 1000 and public sector accounts. In order for them to meet the requirements that those accounts had, they needed certain technology in order to accommodate those requirements. So over the last 15 years, we've continued to build out our technology, and we've been able to then provide that to our small business partners. As we continue, NDVSB has many programs that come underneath that umbrella. NMSDC is one of them, and that's what we're going to focus on today. But I want to emphasize again, as we go through this, what we're talking about, a solution, one of the solutions we're talking about, it's one to many, and I'll touch on some of that as we go. Next screen, please. I do have my team on the phone today. So sometimes I talk too fast, they'll come in and slow me down, or I might miss a couple areas, and they'll jump in and make sure I don't miss anything as we go along. So we have Mary on the phone. She's our VP of Ops, and Julie is our VP of Strategy and Business Development. She works closely with me on a day-to-day basis. Anna's on here as well. She's our VP of Strategic Partners. Those partners include ones like NMSDC, but also on our wholesaler and distributor side. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then Nympha, she's our Strategic Account Manager. It's important there because at ePS, this isn't just us coming in as a corporate member saying we have a way to help MBEs. We align all of our MBEs with account managers and continue to work with them on growing their business, using the technology and aligning them with opportunities that come through ePS. Next screen. So I'm just going to start with the market changes. And obviously, so many of our MBE partners, they've been impacted more so than a lot of the small businesses because of the pandemic. So I think it was back in July of last year, we started talking to NMSDC corporate and NMSDC affiliates and talking about what more can we do now that we have the pandemic here. Businesses are hurting, they're losing a lot of revenue, and we really need to start working, as we always say, we're all in this together. How do we bring everything together? Like Dominique said, we really look at how do we connect. As I mentioned before, we started with the bigs. So we were helping them within their diversity inclusion programs like the Office Depots and Grangers, maybe 20 or 30 MBEs, small businesses at a time. Starting last year, we talked about being a corporate member. How do we help all of NMSDC certified suppliers, product and service suppliers? So we may have both on the phone. I'll touch on both segments as we go forward. What we found, and we went through our market studies and we talked to a lot of the buyers that are out there, the corporate members, is that buying processes have changed. The environment has changed because of COVID, and they no longer can continue to just shop from our small businesses e-commerce sites. They need something more. They needed to shop from an e-marketplace, or they needed an e-procurement experience. So for those of you that are familiar with Ariba or Coupa, and maybe we have to work with them now with some of your buyers, that's what they were talking about. So they said, we have to have that environment in order to buy from the small businesses. So through that market study and then talking to several of the corporate members, and we do business with a lot of them now. When I say we do business with them, there's quite a few of the corporate members, I think 7 on the $1 billion roundtable now, maybe 10, and MBE, NMSDC certified suppliers that we've already aligned with those type of opportunities. And we did that through the technology that we're going to talk about today. So we had those discussions with a lot of the corporate members. They've been customers of ours with our MBEs for many years. And this is where we came up with the market's changing. We have to move quickly, and we have to bring this opportunity to hundreds, not just a few at a time. And again, we started this back in last July, and now we're here and we're ready to talk about the e-marketplace for NMSDC and for your region. Next screen, please. So as I mentioned, our look to the e-marketplace that we're going to talk about today, and that is bringing your offering to corporate members, not only the national members, but as Dominique said, the ones within their region. You already have alignment with them. And from our feedback, from our market study, the biggest thing was not just locating, where are the MBEs I need to buy from them? I need services, I need product. We got a lot back from products. So we actually broke it down to 10 product segments that were the top ones that were requested from those buying organizations. It was one, locating them. Second was, how do we purchase from them? We need an easier way to purchase from them. And most importantly, for the larger organizations, we need them being the MBE partners to be able to follow or be able our purchasing and financial requirements in order to source larger contracts or source business for them. What we're going to talk about today, though, is not contract spend. That's the other big piece of this. It's non-contract spend. So through our studies, we also found out that hundreds of millions of dollars was being spent, and that's been going on for years. We just targeted it more with those 10 product segments and services. We found that that number continued to increase, that spend increased it for non-contract. So I'm sure many of you have been involved with larger corporations where you get involved in their diversity and inclusion program, and you go to their website and you log into there and they approve you, and then you're available to take on bids. Well, we're going to concentrate on that non-contract spend, and then showing them our MBE partners have the technology to participate in larger for contract spend. And that's what we talked to them about. So next screen, please. Again, as I mentioned before, as we always say, all in this together. That's exactly what we are. But our goal last year was, how do we really coordinate that? How do we pull everybody together? You're going to see how we were able to do that over the last several months through bringing them the NMSDC marketplace. So that's making you more visible, as I mentioned before, easier to find you, easier to buy from you is the key. We won't need to start driving more revenue and what we call recurring revenue, not just one-off revenue where they buy from you once in a while. Our MBEs could have recurring revenue, and that's why we help them grow their bottom line. And we're able to meet, this was a big step, all of buyer organizations' requirements. As I mentioned, we've been doing this for 15 years. So we know what those big corporations we need. We know what the public sector needs, and we know what we needed to do in order for our MBEs to meet those requirements. So it basically breaks down into 3 different categories for buyers. I'm sure you're familiar with these, but the next screen will kind of lay that out for us. So with the NMSDC marketplace that was funded by ePS, So again, if you're familiar with Coupa or Ariba, like an e-procurement platform, the front end of that e-marketplace has all the same functionality. That's the ePS e-marketplace, and now it's NMSDC's branded under them. And we know a lot of the small businesses that are corporate members, they may not have a formal diversity program, but they do have spend goals that they want to meet, and they do want to be able to buy from local, and they want to buy from MBEs. We have a distributor, another one, I can't mention their name today, but they're working on a buy local program. It's another opportunity that falls under our NDVSB inclusion program. So we know that those small businesses are looking to do that. As we go into the medium-sized businesses, we have MBEs now that we work with and have been. Those are the ones that they do have spend goals and they do have a formal inclusion program, but they have very specific requirements. It's usually mid-market. So you're talking about maybe a school district or a small hospital chain in your area. They can't afford an e-procurement system like Ariba or Coupa. That costs them $250,000 to $1 million annually. But they do have those requirements. So they're still doing a lot manually. And when they're looking at the small businesses, it almost doubles their manual processes because they have it on their side and then you have it on your side and it comes back to them. So we're approaching those mid-sized businesses now. And we're saying we have the NMSDC marketplace, but if you need a branded version and you need that functionality, you're going to be able to have that. We'll brand your own e-procurement experience under the NMSDC marketplace, which is going to give them all the functionality they need. They're talking about hierarchy approvals. They're talking about receiving credit card and P cards that are encrypted, summary e-invoices that are pushed into their SAP system, all kinds of functionality that they do require and they want to spend more with our diversity partners. So in this case, we are coming to them and saying NMSDC is going to bring to you an e-procurement experience at no charge. And the only catch is, which isn't a catch because you want to do it anyhow, is you are going to buy from our MBEs, and we're going to make sure we make it that easy, brand it for you, and we meet all your financial and purchasing processes. The larger businesses, and there's quite a few of them, as I mentioned, we work with several of them that are on the $1 billion roundtable, and they're corporate members to NMSDC. They've already invested millions of dollars in Ariba, Coupa, Unimarket, Jaeger, all of the big e-procurement platforms. So their pushback usually is, well, the small businesses, they can't integrate. They have to, it's all manual. And they can't put on large e-catalogs on our Ariba system. We took all of that away with the solutions you're going to see today. So under our diversity inclusion program, we're saying all of our MBEs have this technology. No matter what your requirement is as a buyer, we're able to meet every single one of those requirements now. I know it sounds like a bold statement, but as I mentioned, we've been doing this for 15 years. So the software is 15 years mature, which is big in the software industry. That means we've kept adding enhancements and adding more and more to it to make sure we can make that statement that we can literally meet any of your requirements. It's pretty exciting from this point. We have some great conversations with larger corporations, public sector, and our MBE partners. That's who they're dealing with. They're dealing with the Pratt and Whitney's of the world, Molson Coors, Pepsi's. I can go on and on. Dow Chemical, State of California, State of New York, State of Arkansas, and so on. We also have a federal program. I'm going to talk a little bit about that because I'm sure there's several MBE partners that are associated here that have the ability to be able to participate in our federal program, especially with our technology wrapped around it. So I'll mention that a little bit later, but we're going to focus a lot today on NMSDC's e-marketplace because that's what's right in front of us. That's what we've already determined the demand, so to speak, from the corporations, i.e. the corporations that are members. That's what they're looking for. So we're going to focus on that today, but I will mention the other programs that fall under our diversity inclusion program. Next screen, please. So one of the ePS's solutions is called ePS eConnect. Kind of like Dominique said, one of her boxes there was connecting MBEs to opportunities. Well, we look at that in a technical way. We look at that in order for our MBEs to continue to grow their business, they need the technology. And in order for them to get the technology, it has to be very affordable. when we started and before we went, a lot of our MBEs joined ePS, they would go and get this type of technology from different types of sources out there, or different types of companies, and they would pay in a hefty fee in order to participate in private sector, enterprise accounts, and public sector. So what we did is we made it affordable. And we start with these 3 modules. ePS eConnect has these 3 modules. The first one is ePS catalog. That's the key within marketplaces, whether it's Ariba, whether it's Coupa, whether it's Amazon, or whatever the case might be. It's all electronic catalogs. In our NMSDC marketplace, it's an electronic catalog. So if I have service suppliers on the call, keep in mind a lot of this is focused towards the product, but please keep in mind that in phase 2, we're bringing on the service suppliers as well into the e-marketplace. So first step is we have to build an e-catalog. And as I mentioned, taking any takeaway, it's a one-to-many. That's our key here. It's always one-to-many. This one-to-one right now, as we're talking about, we need to build a catalog for you to put on the NMSDC marketplace of what your offering is. Very easy to do with ePS catalog. I talked about those 3 different buyer scenarios. Well, that might require you to have different types of price files. In other words, you're going to have a different sale price depending on the buying organization. That's difficult to maintain because a lot of our MBEs have 50 plus organizations with 50 plus different price files they have to maintain. Very easy to do an ePS catalog. And we'll get into that when we have sidebar conversations with y'all. The next piece was, okay, now I have my electronic catalog and it's on the NMSDC marketplace. How am I going to receive that order? In marketplaces now, it's usually manual for our small business partners. For those that have ePS Connect, eConnect, they have ePS Fulfill. Layman's term, it's an electronic catcher's mitt. That means that any type of electronic PO, no matter where it comes from, the NMSDC marketplace, or maybe you have a customer with Ariba, Fulfill integrates to all of them, integrates to our marketplace and every single other one out there. So that's what we call the electronic catcher's mitt. You can receive any electronic purchase order into Fulfill, integrates to all platforms that are out there. So that's how you're going to receive the order. Next question that comes up is, I would say close to 80% of our MBE partners are reseller partners. They're aligned with a lot of our wholesalers and distributors. That means they have a cost price and they have a resale price. Fulfill has 2 sides to it. So when the order comes in, and I'll show you this on a couple screens, we're able to flip it to a cost price. And we're able to send that directly to the distributor or wholesaler on your behalf. That's what the software does. I'll show you that in the screen. So we're focused now on how we're going to manage tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of SKUs. We have MBE partners that have millions of SKUs in their catalog. And then how are we going to manage that high volume of transactions? That's Fulfill. How do we flip it to cost POs if I'm a reseller? That's Fulfill. Now we know the buying organizations have a different way for pay. That's ePS Pay. For that first scenario on NMSDC's marketplace, that's all credit card and P card. That means you're going to have to be able to accept that. You're going to have to be able to auth and settle. And one of the biggest demands we got from our surveys was if we're going to use our credit card or P card in any type of marketplace, we have to be able to reconcile that, especially when it comes to diversity spend. As you know, they track their diversity spend and they report against that. They required what's called level 3 line item reporting. So now we are able to provide, and have been for many, many years, which really amazes large corporations that we say our small or medium or large MBE partners, they can provide you level 3 line item reporting. I'll show you more about that because this is a really big one for them when they're using P card or credit card, because they say there's nobody that can do level 3 on a P card or credit card. We show them how we do that. And it really makes our MBE partners shine when we start talking about that piece as well. Next screen, please. I did miss on ePS Pay. Sorry about that. I will talk about that as well a little bit later, but it also is e-invoicing. So those large corporations I mentioned before, e-invoicing, going back to them, going back into their ERP system, summary e-invoices pushed into their SAP or whatever ERP system they have. Our MBE partners can now say, yeah, we can do that. So that's the other piece of pay. Pay is credit card, P card, as well as e-invoicing. So now we're looking at just a real quick screenshot here of ePS catalog. So I mentioned before, it's really easy to manage to sync your catalog. Syncing means those different price sheets that you are using for different buying organizations. And you're able to manage that. The next key is, how do we manage it in here so we're profitable? We have to understand, especially if you're a third-party reseller, but even if you're not, you're a manufacturer, we have to understand freight, different types of freight plans, destinations, etc. All of that is built into ePS catalog. Our team here will help you build your electronic catalog. Some of our MBs may just have an Excel spreadsheet, looks kind of like what you're seeing on the screen here. And we turn that into an electronic catalog with all the really pretty pictures, descriptions, etc. The next piece is, now we have to manage our margins. We've got to make sure we're making money here. EPS, like I said, has been doing this for 15 plus years. So we have a really good idea based on product category, what's competitive. We make suggestions on what you may want to put your margin at. And then we work with you on putting your margin, not line by line. Can you imagine putting margins against 500,000 SKUs? It would take forever. And then maintaining that, we do it by categories. That's how it fits in the market. That's how you're able to win bids, or that's how you're able to get the sale when it's in an e-marketplace situation like scenario one. So we're able to do that. We do it by category. We build this with you. Like I said, you have an account manager that's assigned to you, and that account manager will help with our implementation team to build your catalog. After it's built, we'll train you on catalog. As I mentioned, those are the 3 modules that you'll have with ePS eConnect. So once that catalog's built, we'll train you and how to maintain that. And we'll talk to you more about data analytics, who's buying what they're not buying. Go back in, let's adjust margins. I'd rather make something of something than nothing of nothing. I always want to sell something. That's our goal here too. So that's ePS catalog. Very easy to build your electronic catalogs, maintain them. And again, it's one-to-many. It not just for NMSDC's marketplace, but once you build it, let's say you're eligible for our federal program with the Army and Air Force, that same catalog can be put onto their platform. I'll talk about that a little bit later. Next screen, please. ePS Fulfill, as I mentioned, that's the electronic catcher's mitt. I talked a little bit about this. We call it flipping your sale PO. So when you're on the NMSDC marketplace, as I mentioned, you have those different buyers out there, whether it's scenario 1, 2, or 3. Electronic catcher's mitt, that PO is coming in, but that PO comes in on this first side. That's your resale purchase order. Again, a lot of our partners are third-party resellers. We integrate to all of the large wholesalers and distributors. Whether you say Office Depot, Staples, SP Richards, MSC, Grainger, Cinex, and I can go on and on. We integrate to all of them. So that's the back end. That's the piece we talk about with our partners, our reseller partners, small business partners, saying, we need to automate this side of it for you as well. The key here is we are going to drive higher transaction, higher revenue, but we don't want to have you invest on more resources. That's where the technology comes in. So how do I take that purchase order, my resale one, put it into a cost, because I'm selling it for $37.92, but I'm only paying $26.16. ePS Fulfill flips it for you. We put it into a cost purchase order because that price sheet is in there, and it automatically goes over to the distributor, or if you have a warehouse yourself, into your warehousing system, and it goes into there for pick, pack, and ship. The important piece here now is we have to bring it back. And this is all about our diversity spend, tier 1 spend, auditing, and it's not a pass-through. Nope, all of our MBEs have this software. It's just automated. So we're going to bring that information back in, and your cost invoice is going to come back in. 2 questions come up. 1, if I have higher transaction volume, a lot of our MBs have QuickBooks or something like that. We said, can you push that cost invoice into QuickBooks? Answer is yes. Or into any other accounts payable? Yes, we can. So you don't have to put it in, and that's what you're going to have to be paying your distributor. But now we need to flip it back over to an invoice to the buyer if they're not using credit card or P card at $37.92, of course, branded under your company name and all the requirements that the buyer has as far as what an invoice needs to have on it. So we flip that, and we're able to push that back over to the buyer in any way or format that they need. Some that have Ariba, push it back into Ariba this way. Some that have Ariba that they integrate to their ERP, or they have Coupa, push it into our ERP system. The answer is yes. We can always do that. Our MBEs can do that. It really, again, this is where the excitement starts on the buy side. They go, we've never heard this before, that your small business partners can do all of this. The answer is yes, they can. They have the technology to do all this, one to many. Next screen, please. So as I mentioned before, we integrate to a lot of different distributors out there, all the majors, but you might be on the call saying, well, I wonder if they integrate to mine. We may, and we may not. If we don't, then we talk to you about what ePS Fulfill and ePS Pay does on this screen. So this is just, then we would come back to you and say, you know what, you still have one manual process, and that would be it. And we're not going to integrate to your distributor or wholesaler or even into your system unless transaction volume dictates it. Once transaction volume is high enough, let's write an integration. Integrations don't cost that much, $2,000 to $5,000. But we don't go there yet. We want to drive revenue to you first, drive up your revenue before you make any other investment. So in the meantime, we say just do it manually. It's where those big black arrows are. So when you get your information back from your distributor or wholesaler, or if it's your own warehouse, you're going to say, here's the information I have to put in. It's going to trigger one of two things once that information is put in down in the right-hand corner there. It's going to trigger one, either to create an e-invoice that goes back to the buyer, or two, like in scenario one of the NMSDC marketplace, it's going to trigger to go ahead and charge the credit card or the P card. So it is one manual process. If we don't integrate to your wholesaler distributor or into your warehousing system, but it's not much to do in order to trigger those two events in order to create invoice or charge a credit card or P card. Next screen. This is one that we just wanted to show. Again, it's one to many. Actually, I think the screen came from our Army and Air Force with one of our MBs that we have out there. So as you can see, their credit card information in that particular program, everything's encrypted. So our MBEs, they have to say, yes, I can take a credit card, I can unencrypt it, I can provide you level 3 line item information, I can give you line item information, and you're able to receive this all through ePS Fulfill. Once I unencrypt it, I often settle, and I'm able to now go ahead and deposit those funds. Those go into your bank account. ePS does not control any of your funds. ePS is merely the technology that's able to unencrypt that credit card and then send it over for auth and settlement so that payment goes into your system, into your bank account. And then we're able to provide the buying organization everything they want. Back to that level 3 line item detail piece. That's one of the big requests, actually was mandatory for Army and Air Force, that they were able to reconcile with level 3 line item detail. Honestly, when we showed them that our small businesses can do that, they were completely amazed. And that program is doing quite well, and we're actually expanding to all Army and Air Force bases next month. But we'll talk, I'll mention that again at the end. Again, this again will come into that scenario with NMSDC marketplace. Scenario 1, credit card, P card. It's the only way they're going to buy. You have the ability now to do unencrypted and off settle, and they can run level 3 line item reports. Next screen, please. So this is what the NMSDC and Carolina and Virginia's e-marketplace looks like. It can be changed. So that's the beauty of it. As I mentioned, there's 3 scenarios. So call this the community e-marketplace. This is where your catalog is going to be. This is the product categories up in the left-hand side. As I mentioned earlier, down in the right-hand corner, that's where we're going to start add services. So we do that for a couple of our larger customers now. Army and Air Force bases throughout the world, their exchange stores are actually on this software. And we have other larger customers like Pilot and Flying J, all those big truck stops. They have several diversity MB and small businesses, but they have services, and we put those services links down here so they can find service suppliers as well. And the product suppliers are up in the left-hand side. So as I go back to the one to many, this is where we start. We start with the Carolinas, Virginia's e-marketplace, and those buying organizations are able to come in now and shop from your catalogs. As I mentioned before, you might run into scenario 2 or 3 with the buyers, and they say, love it, it looks great, Dominique and everyone else, but we need our own version. Okay, you can have your own. Then you might have another one, like we mentioned before. Hey, we already have a Reba Coupa or something. Love to buy from them, but no, but it's okay. You can choose who you want from Carolina, Virginia e-marketplace, and we can put that catalog on your e-procurement platform. We cover all three scenarios. So they have all the functionality here. And this, your region will be able to brand this the way they want, promote different ways. So all of it's configurable with just widgets. It's easy to use, easy to configure. As I mentioned, one to many, it's not one look for everybody. So that's what we're bringing to the buying organizations. That's what they were looking for, as I mentioned before. So we have two awareness programs that we're talking about. One, we'll look at looking at all those over 500 corporate members now out of NMSDC corporate. Those are the ones I mentioned. We do a lot of business with several of them now. And we want to be able to say now all the RMBE partners, they have the capabilities, they have the technology to do this. So now we're meeting your requirements no matter which one they are. So that's just a high level that what the e-marketplace looks like, and it's e-procurement functionality behind all this. So we've met all of their requirements and needs. Next, please. So we talk about the benefits, and Dominique had mentioned that connecting. So more buyer connections, that's the awareness program. So we're going to go back to all the corporate buyers and we're going to talk to them about now the e-marketplace, and not only the e-marketplace. The important part is that our MBE partners now have the technology to meet any of your requirements. So it gives you a better opportunity of B2B and B2G opportunities, not only within NMSDC, but also outside of that with ePS programs. It's scalable, as I mentioned, technology. It's one to many. We build business plans with our MBE partners. We work with them hand in hand about going after different markets. Now that they have this technology, they're able to meet any requirements out there. So let's grow the businesses together. And as we mentioned, there's many benefits for your region as well. More of the corporate members seeing that there's more opportunities for them to be able to spend in areas that they want to. The new technology will attract those members. They're not only going to look at that non-contract spend, which we're focused on today, but when they see that you have the technology, those corporate members, now they definitely will look at you even closer and say, with that technology, we need to invite them into some of our bigger bid opportunities. Not just a small piece, not just a small awards that a lot of our MBE partners are getting. We go back now and say, we can meet your needs and requirements. So corporate members, we would like you now to include all of the MBEs in all of your large bid opportunities. And it's year over year revenue for the councils as well. So as I mentioned, we're a corporate sponsor. So we funded the program. We put a fund together to decrease entry level in order to have the technology that we're going to talk about. So we put that in place too. So where EPS is covering 2/3 of the cost, a little bit more actually. And then we talk about how we start moving forward of getting you onto the NMSDC marketplace, and then talk about the other opportunities. As I said, one to many. Now you have this technology, you can participate in other opportunities. Next screen. I think we're coming to the end here.
All right.
So I'll just finish up with this. This is the other opportunities that I talked about, and then I'll kick it back over. Because the first thing a lot of people are going to ask is anybody participating? Right now we have about 60 NMSDC certified suppliers are already onboarded. And we're going to start building their catalogs and start putting together. Remember, this is national. So we're talking about trying to meet many hundreds of buying organizations requirements. So we want to be able to provide them with as many MBEs and different product and service categories as possible. In talking to you, we also know based on, we'll talk to you about your revenue and your infrastructure now, but once you have the technology, our federal program with the Army and Air Force eventually moving to the Navy, but Army and Air Force is done with their pilot program, and we launch all bases next month. That federal program, we're going to talk to the MBE partners, and if you're 2 million or more in revenue, now that you have the technology, you're able to participate not only in NMSDC's marketplace, we're going to invite you to participate in the federal program with the Army and the Air Force as well. Same catalog, different price structure, because we know who we're competing against. Army and Air Force uses their federal marketplace with Amazon, Overstock, and Fisher-Sci, or Thermo Fisher, I mean. So we know exactly what to do in order to make you competitive there as well. As I mentioned before, I can't say the name, but distributor partners, they work with us, wholesalers. They're expanding their diversity inclusion programs. One has a buy local campaign this year. They need more MBEs involved in their program in order for them to meet their buy local. And this is an avenue to do that. So what we did, as I mentioned, we put a fund together. ePS funded the entire e-marketplace with NMSDC. And the fund that we put together, people asked about the costs. So the cost is only $1,500 annual for ePS eConnect. I know it sounds like a lot of money, especially with everything going on. But with the benefits that you're able to get from ePS eConnect, what we're doing with the NMSDC marketplace and the opportunities and the buyers, we know that they've asked for this. So we're very confident that the business will start coming. Again, that's non-contract spend. We know it's hundreds of millions of dollars that are out there. So that's what we're targeting. Okay.
All right. Well, let's break to questions, David. This has been excellent information. Can you come on screen for me?
I can.
All right, great. So I appreciate you moving forward. We set up at the beginning, if something happens to my computer, to keep on going, and I got shut out, so you kept on going, and I appreciate that. But I want to frame up for our viewers the magnitude of this opportunity, because in this time that we're in right now, this is the perfect opportunity for you to expand your business. As David said, this is an NMSDC program, and we are going to launch it from NMSDC. So you're hearing it first. They haven't even launched it on their platform yet. You're hearing it first. And I will tell you that you might have to listen to this a couple of different times to really get it and understand the magnitude of it. But just in a nutshell, just imagine you having to go to a military base or to a corporation to sell your product and get them to start buying from you. With this, it makes any size company look national in scope. And now you have a catalog that is visible to all of these national companies and international companies that are using these platforms that David talked about. So you go from single appointments to a national catalog where you're now able to distribute your products. And that the potential for that is just immeasurable. So for the $1,500 that David mentioned, that's the upfront fee. Then there's some commission pieces that are aligned with that. If you want more information, when we get into the nitty gritty of it and more information in terms of the revenue model, we'll share that with you. But for now, explain, David, just to give an example of how they can make money with this program.
With NMSDC marketplace specifically, how they can make money is, again, we've been doing the heavy lifting with the corporate members, talking to them. So we know that there's a tremendous amount of money out there on non-contract spend. To be quite frank, a lot of it's going to Amazon. That's where a lot of it has happened because of COVID. They were going there because at least they can track it. So now being able to align you specifically with those buying organizations, and because they are corporate members, so they're dedicated to buying from the MBEs, that's how we're making money. So we're able to make money now by one, your catalog offering, your product offering, and then phase two, your service offering. But we also, as I mentioned before, we want to introduce you to other distributors. We want to make your offering bigger. The bigger your offering is, the more orders you're going to get. So our distributors are looking for more MBEs as well.
Well, what if you don't have a dropship distributor? Can I still sell my products through the system?
Absolutely. So that's where we mentioned if you have it not dropship and you have a warehouse and you're doing it out of your warehouse, we absolutely can do that. Build the catalog of your offering. You'll have that one manual process that I mentioned and fulfill. That's it. But if we anticipate transaction volume going up, once it goes up, we'll talk to you about, let's integrate and take away that manual process.
Okay, great. So let's talk about how the customers are even going to know that an individual company's products are in the system, and how we're going to market this whole program.
Yeah,
I know a lot of it's going to be on us, but talk to us about your vision.
Yeah, our vision and what we're doing now is we've already started the marketing piece of it. So as I mentioned earlier, we work with several of the corporate members right now, and NMSDC certified suppliers are already aligned to them. Their catalogs are already on their systems. So we've already talked to them. So we're marketing it through NMSDC to the corporate members first, because we have a lot of case studies that tell them about, you're already buying from NMSDC suppliers. Let's expand that. They now have the technology to where you can spend your money because they have a way for them to be able to process or meet the requirements that you have within your system or within the e-marketplace.
Okay. All right. And we'll do a job of marketing it from a local standpoint as well as a national standpoint. We'll be marketing this program. And there are other programs that are out there that you can become affiliated with similar to this. So you don't have to just be on one platform. So I say that, and I want to ask one question before we go and open it up to the field. You
Sure.
mentioned a $2 million threshold when we talked about the military bases. I just want to give an example. I have a company that wants to sell their sauce wholesale to military bases, but they're not a $2 million company. Would they be eligible?
Yeah, they're eligible. So when I say $2 million, that's in that 10 product category segment that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all the major ones: MRO, office supplies, tech, etc., furniture. But for someone that's selling sauces, absolutely. I can tell you right now, this is a little bit of intel, but yes, I know the Air Force bases, and you brought up sauces. They are buying barbecue sauce from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So we
Okay.
said, absolutely, we're including them.
Excellent. Excellent. Very good. All right. So VK, do we have any questions coming in from the audience?
Just as a reminder to the audience that to ask your question, please raise your electronic Zoom hand, and then we'll recognize you and your microphone will be unmuted for you to share your question directly to Mr. David Ceroli or members of the ePS team or Dominique Milton. So while you have an opportunity to formulate your questions, we did have one question that came in via the Q&A feature earlier. To David, and that question is, I sell office products and medical supplies. Can I sell more than one product line?
Absolutely. That is our key. The more product lines that we can get you involved in, the better, especially when we're talking about actually both the e-marketplace, our buyer signals, that's what we call them. They say we would like to be able to go to our MBEs and be able to find multiple product lines offered from them. So, and that's where I mentioned, if you're only selling one or two, that's great. It's an excellent start, but we'll actually introduce you to some of our other distributors so you can sell 3, 4, or 5 different types of product lines. So the answer is yes.
Thank you. And the next question was, can you talk more about the potential revenue that could result from this process?
Absolutely. So what we find within our e-marketplace is now that we have out there, and we'll find the same with NMSDC, but NMSDC is a little bit bigger. Again, you have 1,500 or 1,000 plus, I think it was 1,500 plus corporate members, 500 plus that we know of corporate that we've talked to or at least been involved with. So the potential revenue that we see from our e-marketplaces from our partners is they have an additional revenue line of somewhere around anywhere, depending on the product line, another 200,000 to 500,000 annually. You get into the Air Force and Army, if you're qualified for that program, our federal program, which will then go to the Navy. They have approximately right now on their government P card, DOD has approximately $1 billion to spend on it. So that's what we're targeting. We're targeting that spend.
Thank you.
So let's dig in there a little bit more. So you have the 60 suppliers that are on right now. You're talking to 500 of our corporations, but how many corporations are actively engaged in buying on the system?
With our direct MBEs, because we don't, as you know, we don't have the NMSDC marketplace launch yet, but we have over 25 right now.
25 corporations that are buying.
Corporations that are the one-to-one.
Okay. All right. So that's 25 more than a supplier might have right now.
Right.
They get involved, and then you anticipate that growing to our network. Okay.
Right.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Any other questions coming in, Valerie?
Yes. The question is, can you expand more or explain more who will have access to shop from the e-marketplace?
Absolutely. So from within the e-marketplace, we start off with the awareness program, and that goes to all corporate members, regional and national. And those are the members that'll be able to shop from the e-marketplace. As Dominique mentioned, there's lots of different areas that they work in. So they work in with corporate members and public sector within your region. That's going to be another awareness campaign. So they are all allowed to come in and shop as well. Not only that, MBEs buying from MBEs. So you can buy from each other. We always promote that. So, but we start with the large corporations, public sector, And those that are in the mid categories, EPS has several of those buying organizations that we point in this direction.
Okay, and we
Good.
have one final question that came in. It sort of dovetails off of that, and that's, can I send my customers to the e-marketplace to shop online for my products?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So depending on if they're in that scenario one, it's just a simple self-registration, and they'll have a username and password. It'll be their own private experience. They don't get to see what everybody else is doing. But more importantly, that customer, they may want to buy more from you. That's scenario two. That's when they say, well, I want to buy more from you, but I need my own version, my own branded version. Your answer to that customer now is, yep, I'll give you your own branded version, and you'll have our catalogs out there.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
Dominique, that was the last question.
Okay, all right. Well, I have a few more. So David, just to frame it up for our members, let's just say you have 3 MBEs that sign up, pay the $1,500 and get into the catalog. I know that there are no guarantees, right? So one MBE sees a 200% increase in business through this program. Another might see a 50% increase, and another sees nothing, right?
Mhm.
So one, do you offer any rebates to those people who have seen nothing? And two, how can those 3 MBEs help to promote their products in your system so that they are, I won't say guaranteed, so that they increase the likelihood of folks buying from them and are aware that their products are there?
Great question. Thank you. So yeah, to answer the first piece of it, do we offer back any type of rebate or guarantee? We never had to do that. So that's the good news. If we ever had to, we would say yes, we would do that. If for some reason it didn't work out, we would definitely do that. We're in this like you are. If you're not selling, we're not making money. So no one's benefiting. But we haven't had that
Excellent.
situation before. Now, what we do, as I mentioned earlier, is we have our account managers. So this is just a starting point. NMSDC Marketplace is a starting point. We're going to work with you like we have with our other MBE partners, and we do it every day. And we say, now let's target. Let's build a business plan around this. You have ePS eConnect. With that, you can now go to any buying organizations out there, and they're all around, that have third-party e-procurement platforms or doing purchasing out of their ERP. ePS eConnect connects to them. So now you may say, hey, I'm only at a 10% increase. I want to do more. Well, even before we get to that conversation, we're already be talking to you about doing more.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, that's what I needed to hear. That's it. I think that we've covered everything. If you have any closing comments before I close out, David?
We just have on the screen here. So for more information, you can go to our website. You'll see ePS eConnect. There's not a video there, but you'll see a couple other videos of our other solutions like the eMarketplace. And it'll give you more information on that. There's also another page for NDVSB. Again, that is our diversity inclusion program with lots of different programs underneath that, like AFIS, like NMSDC, and more that are coming on board. So,
All right.
to set up a private, please go to sales at ePro, and we'll set up private conversations to talk more about this in detail.
Excellent, David. Thank you for introducing this new concept to us. Really appreciate the work that's been put into it, and the fact that it's going to be rolled out from NMSDC makes it even stronger for all of us. So again, to our listeners, you're hearing this first here. Our theme for 2021 is real growth, and this is a way in which you can grow your business. It's a different way to look at it, but David, come back on. It's a different way to look at it, but truly it is an opportunity for you of any size company to look larger than you are and to have a national or international scope in terms of how you sell your product. So I appreciate you bringing this opportunity to us, David. It's not predicated on everyone joining. Anyone can join individually. And so you may need to make that contact with them directly. And we will be bringing you, as I said a little bit earlier, other opportunities similar to this so that you can choose where you want to improve your business, grow your business through our network. So I thank you for being here today, David. Thank you to your entire team for being on the line. For our listeners, we do have an upcoming event, which is April 13th and 14th, which is AMP 21. That is our annual meeting and Pro Forum conference. It will be held virtually to keep everyone safe. On the 13th is the annual meeting, and for all of our MBEs that might be listening, that event is going to be free to you. On the 14th, it's Pro Forum, and that is for our corporate-only members, and that is a paid event. So I look forward to seeing each of you to learn about what occurred in 2020, the different programs we're going to have in 2021 to get some educational learnings on how you can grow your business. And we're going to talk about giving, corporate giving on the 14th. So look forward to seeing everyone there. Please, please, please go to CVMSDC.org, sign up for our newsletter, and keep abreast of webinars that we have going on monthly. I thank you for your participation. I thank you for being at the table. And David, once again, thank you for ePS and this opportunity. And that is a wrap.
Thank you very much.